Toastmasters, friends, and guests. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something that's very important to me, and I know it's equally important to you. I'm talking, of course, about sunscreen. Sunscreen is one of those magic concoctions that lets us have more fun in the sun. From boogie boarding to surfing to biking, we get to have more fun when we have sunscreen on. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about sunscreen and what it's composed of, and also share a personal experience of how sunscreen changed an entire vacation. Sunscreen has been around for a long time. And just recently, within the last 50 years, they've made a lot of scientific advances about sunscreen. The scientific advances they have found is that there is two types of radiation that we have to be worried about when we're out in the sun. The first one is ultraviolet A, and the second one is ultraviolet B. Sunscreen, a good sunscreen, will protect against both. But sometimes you're going to find one sunscreen that protects against UVA rays, but not necessarily against UVB rays. When looking for sunscreen, you're going to want to find one that does both UVA and UVB rays. Something such as this one right here is perfect. This protects against UVA and also UVB rays. So what are these rays? Let's talk about them a little bit here. UVA rays. When the sun comes down, it hits your skin, and it penetrates the multiple layers of dermis that you have here, the fascia, or the skin. UVA rays are the leading cause of skin cancer. So we want to make sure that we're protecting against UVA rays. We also have UVB rays. Now the B rays come down and they hit your skin and they cause you to burn. So those are the things that we don't want to burn at all. UVA. How does sunscreen protect against UVA? There are two main chemicals that are in our sunscreen that protect against that. The first one is titanium dioxide. The second one is zinc oxide. And you'll notice back in the day they used to rub zinc oxide on their nose. It protects against UVA rays and skin cancer. We also have UVB rays. Suntan lotion has a concoction of chemicals. What happens is the sun comes down and it hits the chemical composition that we have here, and the byproduct is heat. It's an exothermic reaction on the skin, and it causes heat. Now the chemicals that are in sunscreen only last for so long. That's why we have this number on the sunscreen, SPF. SPF 15, SPF 50, SPF 300, or whatever you find at the store. A lot of times this is a marketing gimmick by sunscreen to make you buy a more expensive suntan lotion. They'll say SPF 65 or SPF 100, and you'll want to spend more because it's going to protect against more. However, the chemical reaction is just only UVB, and that's what we're protecting against. We don't want to get the burn here. UVB rays, as they come down, the chemical reaction here causes it to UVB rays are not good. We do not want UVB rays on our skin. The chemicals only last for so long. You're going to have to reapply after a couple of hours. So this number right here, if you burned after 10 minutes, you can stay out in the sun 50 times longer with the number that's right here, SPF 50. That is equivalent to 8 hours in the sun. But we all know that if you apply this sunscreen and stay out in the sun for 8 hours, you're going to burn. You are going to char, because the chemicals are only going to last for so long. That's why you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours, because you are protecting against UVBs. Now, this 50 right here is going to last you for the UVA rays for 8 hours. Because the zinc oxide, what it's going to do is it's going to cause the sun to reflect from your skin. But it won't protect against UVB. That's why we reapply the sunscreen. There's sunscreen for your body. There's sunscreen for your face. Special sunscreen for face. There's lots of different kinds of sunscreen out there. The main thing is that the sunscreen for your face has more petroleum jelly in it. It has a thicker viscous, it's thicker, and it makes it so that you won't burn, and it won't run into your eyes. So choosing the correct sunscreen is just so important. It's really important. Make sure you have one. Kids, right here is waterproof. It's perfect if you're going to be in the water. Make sure to put the face one on your face. Otherwise, you're going to get the sunscreen in your eyes. I went to Cabo a couple of years back. And in Cabo, we had a whole bunch of sunscreen. We put it on the table. My mother-in-law had a bag just like this. And she took her bag to the beach with us every single day. When we'd run out of sunscreen, she'd grab more and throw it in her bag. On day 3 of Cabo, I grabbed some of the sunscreen that she had just thrown in her bag. I put it on. I was out in the sun for 2 hours, and I charred. I turned into a lobster. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. The next day, I'm sitting out under an umbrella, and my wife puts on the same sunscreen that I had put on. She burned horribly. So now she's a lobster. Day 3, we're both sitting under this giant thing on the beach, and she's a lobster, I'm a lobster, and we're going, wait a minute, how did this happen? How did this happen? And we look in, and we find that the sunscreen had expired. Expired sunscreen does not protect against UVB rays. We had both put on the expired sunscreen. We walked over to my mother-in-law and said, hey, Brenda, this is expired and it doesn't work. And she goes, oh, well, that's great to know. She puts it back in her bag. Day 3, there's my wife and me, and we're sitting underneath this umbrella, and my father-in-law, her father, put on this expired sunscreen. He was out in the sun for just 2 hours, and he comes back a lobster. When he comes back, he's like, what happened? And I said, well, Pat, your sunscreen is expired. We showed Brenda that it's expired, and she put it back in her bag. He's like, Brenda, come here. Let me see your bag. And he pulls out the sunscreen that's expired. He goes, what is this doing in your bag? And she's like, oh, it's expired. Don't use that sunscreen. He threw the sunscreen across the beach, and he's like, no, bad Brenda. That is horrible. So the moral of the story, do not use expired sunscreen. And make sure that you put this thing on, because this will make or break your experience. Thank you very much.